rise as Mr. Lambert leads us in the salute to the flag. Thank you, Mr. Lambert. Mindy?
Here.
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 Thank you. Mr. Gibson, just a note that Mr. DeCenzi will be the next person. Item B on the agenda, minutes from the Board of Education regular meeting on May 8th. I'd like to thank Mr. Lambert for chairing that meeting in my absence, and ask that all board members let me know if they did receive these in the packet Friday. Are there any questions? Edits?
Yes, Madam Chair, I move that the Board approve the minutes from the May 8th, 2017 meeting of the Board of Education as submitted.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. If we look at the agenda, we see two letter Fs under E fiscal year. We're going to change the first F to item EA. That brings us to the fiscal year update 27-2018. On Tuesday, May 16th, the Board of Education budget failed by 61 votes in the town-wide referendum. Because of this, the town council has an important job and a very difficult one I know that they spend a lot of time and energy considering. Because of the failed referendum, the town council will hold a special meeting tomorrow evening at 7:30 p.m. to consider both the amount that the Board of Education budget must be cut by and to determine the new referendum date. In order to comply with the new budget amount set by the town council, the Board of Ed will then announce a special meeting where we will consider recommendations from Dr. Cardamola on what should be removed from the Board of Education budget. Determining what to cut in the Board of Education is going to be very difficult, primarily because of how much work already went into that budget, how much has already been done to mitigate the costs that we have control over. And because of the enormous health insurance increases, there were very few additions. And as you know, we have already reduced staff greatly by way of attrition. My message tonight is that you here up at this desk know that and feel that the Watertown Public Schools is the center of the community. We're all here to do our best that we can for our students, because that in turn is what makes our community better. Despite the failed referendum, the upcoming cuts, and pending decisions, our goal absolutely remains the same. That I can assure you of. We will continue to operate to do what's best for students of Watertown Public Schools, and that will continue all the way. There's no doubt about that. Failed referendum or not. That is our goal, and it will be to be no. Moving on to item BA. Alan?
Thank you. Starting at John Trumbull, the annual Family Math Night was held with over 150 family members in attendance. The new makerspace had its grand opening, where John Trumbull students showed parents and members of the community how to become a maker. A competition was held called the Marshmallow Challenge, with Mr. Warren Campbell, a teacher from Martin High School, taking home the title. At Judson, Smarter Balance testing was completed on Thursday, May 18th, with grade 5 students being administered the pilot for the next generation science standards. The PTO held a Mother's Day sale, where students could purchase items for a special person in their lives. On May 11th, Band and Strings and the 4th grade choir performed for friends and families in a concert enjoyed by everyone. At Polk, grade 4 students have been rehearsing for their concerts with band, strings, and chorus on Tuesday, May 23rd, with 2 o'clock and 6 o'clock performances. On May 25th, Polk students will be treated to an anti-bullying program. Swift Middle School. The Swift 7th grade band recently participated in a Skype session with composer Sean O'Loughlin, a prominent composer of music for wind ensembles known across the country, with notable works for the Boston Pops Orchestra, the Los Angeles Philharmonic, and the Hollywood Bowl Orchestra. He has also worked with artists such as Sarah McLachlan, Adele, Josh Groban, and Blue Man Group. Swift peer leaders, peer helpers, and members of WOA attended the annual Peer Youth Conference at Holiday Hill this past week, with the students being given the opportunity to take part in workshops that emphasize building positive peer relations, effective communication, and acceptance of differences in others. Here at Waterton High School, our second blood drive of the year was held earlier today. The honors recital will be held in the auditorium on May 24th. The Shape Banquet will be held in the library on May 25th. And our senior prom will be held May 26th at the AquaTurf in Southington. Thank you.
Moving on to item F in the agenda, award recognition. Dr. Pedamone.
Thank you, Mrs. Crowley. We have a special recognition issue to see tonight for two of our own staff members from John Trumbull Primary School. John Trumbull Primary School. We had two of our staff members who, without any embellishment, literally saved the life of one of our John Trumbull Primary students last week. And while very often I think it's taken for granted by us as educators, because it's, as one of these paraprofessionals told me when I called to thank them for what they did, just what we do, to some degree, I think that we operate under the pretense that we forget that we literally have children's lives in our hands every day. Parents send us their kids, and we've said this as a building principal too, the most important thing to them is that they come back the same way that they came to school. Hopefully they've learned something while they're here, but they, if nothing else, expect that we send their children back safe. And thanks to two of our John Trumbull Primary School paraprofessionals, we were able to do that for one of our employees this week. Two of our paraprofessionals acted very quickly when they saw a young man choking in the cafeteria and airway completely blocked. And without that, I'm not sure what story we would be telling here tonight. Thank you very much to Barbara Engelhardt and Anne-Marie Dos Santos for quickly enacting the Heimlich maneuver and saving the life of one of our students. I ask you to come up. I know that we have our little friend here tonight. Hold on a second. Do you want to come up, honey? Come on up.
Because sometimes we get personal in professional environments, like now, I would like to add a little unknown fact, except for those closest to me. This young man's father, some years ago, saved life. Particularly special to see the parents see the son saved by it. Moving along. Before we continue with award recognition because we have some very exciting awards to hand out this evening. I ask that all the applause be held until each student being recognized is asked to come up one at a time so that you're able to hear the incredible things that our award recipients have been up to. The first award we'd like to hand out is for the Connecticut High School Fine Arts Award. The Watertown Board of Education would like to recognize two students from Watertown High School who received the Connecticut High School Fine Arts Award at the AquaTurf on April 4th this past month. Candidates receiving the Fine Arts Award must excel in performing or visual arts and possess the qualities of scholarship and leadership in the field. Our first recipient is Cameron Rizzo.
Cameron is an extremely talented artist who's excited and passionate about doing her best in all art mediums. Cameron says, "You have to look at other artists' work to inspire and influence yourself. You also have to look into your own life to be able to translate your euphoria and struggles into art with meaning." Cameron has the tenacity, grit, work ethic, and passion to thrive as a professional artist. Cameron will be attending the School of Visual Arts in Manhattan, New York this fall.
Congratulations, Cameron. We'll make sure that she receives her recognition. The next student to receive this award is Joshua Rodas.
Joshua is an essential member of the Watertown High School music department. Joshua performs the tenor in the chamber choir, plays guitar in the jazz ensemble, and has successfully completed AP music theory. He has performed with the regional, all-state, all-eastern, and national choirs, and he has held many leading roles in musicals at Watertown High School and the landmark community theater. Joshua plans to study music next year at Northbuck Valley Community College.
Congratulations, Joshua. Stick around for after awards. We'd like to get your photograph, okay? The next award we'd like to recognize is the CIAC Scholar Athlete Award. The following two students from Watertown High School received the CIAC Scholar Athlete Award at an annual banquet on May 7th, 2017 at the AquaTurf in Covington. The Scholar Athlete Program annually recognizes students that are seniors from high school whose academic and athletic careers have been exemplary, whose personal standards and achievements are a model for others, and who possess high levels of integrity, self-discipline, and courage. Our first scholar athlete is Ashley Gugliotti.
Ashley Gugliotti is a free sport athlete and was captain of her soccer, basketball, and lacrosse team her senior year. Ashley led her soccer team to an NBL championship this year and had a great run in the state tournament. Ashley is currently ranked 4th in her class. She is a member of the National Honor Society and the World Language Honor Society. Ashley will be attending Pennsylvania State University in the fall and will pursue a degree in athletic training.
Fantastic. Congratulations, Ashley. The next scholar athlete, Sagan Flatwell.
Sagan is a two-sport athlete competing in soccer and tennis all 4 years. As a tennis captain in his senior year, he's led his team to another successful season, seeded 4th going to the NBL tournament. Sagan is currently ranked in the top 10 of his class and is a member of the National Honor Society and World Language Honor Society. Sagan will be attending UConn in the fall to pursue a degree in biology, leading to pre-med and a career in medicine.
Sagan, congratulations. The next next award that we'd like to recognize is the CIS Middle School Scholar Athlete Award. The CIS Middle School Scholar Leader Award. The Watertown Board of Education would like to recognize the following two students from Swift Middle School who received their award. From Swift Middle School who received the Connecticut Association of Schools Middle School Scholar Leader Award. This program is designed to give public recognition to one boy and one girl from each middle school level school in Connecticut who has distinguished him or herself with scholarship and leadership both in the school and in the community. Consideration is given to academic success, leadership, active participation in school and community organizations, citizenship, positive influence on school climate, dependability, responsibility, character, and integrity. Our first recipient is Natalie Lindstrom. Natalie is an 8th grade student at Swift Middle School. Based on her outstanding academic record, Natalie serves as president of the Swift chapter of the National Junior Honor Society. She participates in our 8th grade choral group as an active member of the student council, field club, cheerleader, fun club, and Ciac. Natalie was also the winner of the 3M Purification Award at the Connecticut Convention Convention. She attended the National Convention and won the Best Black Book Award for the Entrepreneurship Exhibition. She has since started a successful business from her invention, Ciac. She now serves as a district level invention judge at our elementary school. Congratulations, Natalie. And the next recipient of the CAS Middle School Scholar Leader Award is William Tucker.
William is an 8th grade student at Swift Middle School. He is a member of the Swift chapter of the National Junior Honor Society based on his outstanding academic record. William is also a member of our 8th grade choral group and served as a care helper in 6th grade. He is captain of the Swift cross country and baseball team. Outside of school, William is a junior NBL leader and participates in Watertown rec swimming, Water Oak baseball, Yankee Clipper swim team for USA Swimming, and institutional intramural sports.
Congratulations to William Tucker. Moving on to our final award this evening. The Watertown Board of Education would like to congratulate the following 3 Swift Middle School students who were chosen to attend the State of Connecticut Invention Convention at UConn earlier in May. The inventors who attended were Erica Gugliotti, grade 7, Jessica Stango, grade 8, and Avery O'Connell, grade 7. Jessica and Avery were chosen as recognized inventors, and Avery was chosen to go on to the National Invention Convention in Washington, D.C. that takes place early this June. This is the 2nd year in a row that a Swift student was chosen to go to the national competition. We'd like to congratulate all 3. Congratulations, inventor Erica Gugliotti. Congratulations, Jessica Stango and Avery O'Connell. We're going to take a brief pause to take some photos of our award recipients, starting with the Invention Convention recipient.
Oh, really?
Thank you.
Moving on to the agenda to item G, superintendent's recommendations and report.
Thank you. As I noted at the last board meeting, we had an impending announcement to be made about who would represent Watertown as the 2017-18 Teacher of the Year. And as I think most know by now, but I'd like to recognize anyway, we chose Mr. Gary Flum, a fifth grade teacher at Polk Elementary School. And I won't get into the entirety of Mr. Flum's biography and why he was chosen, because as you know, we'll recognize him on another night. However, I just wanted to officially make the announcement and note that Mr. Flum has worked for us for 40 years. It's amazing to me because it seems that he can't possibly be of an age that he could have worked for us for 40 years. Although I did have a nice reunion with his 3 children who graduated from the high school, so I suppose he is old enough to have been here that long, but he started at like 14. So again, congratulations to Mr. Flum and Polk School for providing us with a nomination for a great teacher. We also had other nominees who made it far along in the process. And as you know, I say this all the time, it really is a difficult job to decide who will be chosen. And again, we'll mention this at the meeting where we recognize Mr. Flum, but just wanted to congratulate the other 8 nominees. John Trumbull, Primary Schools, Jennifer Caprari, Diana DiBiase from Judson School, Jody Field from both Polk and Judson School, she's an art teacher, Elizabeth Hosking from Judson School, Beth Coleman from John Trumbull Primary School, Annette Petro from John Trumbull Primary School, Rosie Rader from Swift Middle School, and Val Sassu from here at the high school. Those were some of the nominees, the last of the nominees that had to be chosen from. So as you can see, that was a very difficult pool for Mr. Flum to be chosen from. And again, congratulations. I think we all know this already because we've seen it in the Town Times. However, we had the honor to present an award to the child advocate from Waterbury Safe Haven at the police department last week, and they invited me to come along to the chief because we do quite a bit of work with Waterbury Safe Haven for our students who need that, and I wanted to thank the chief of police and Safe Haven for the work that they do for us for our students who are clearly in dire need when they need the services of Safe Haven, which provides food, shelter, and other necessary items to families in crisis. Family Math Night, as Mr. Dika already mentioned, went very well at John Trumbull. I wanted to thank everyone at John Trumbull who attended and put on a great night for our parents to see and learn about the math that their students are learning about in kindergarten, first and second grade. And it was very well attended, as you heard. About 150 families that came. So thank you very much, and thank you to the families who came out. We have continued work on our priority standards, which go along with having a standards-based report card. Dr. Parlato, Ms. Scully, and Ms. Feckety, so that, again, this is an effort for grades 3 through 5 right now, met to begin to solidify priority standards for grades 4 and 5 for the standards-based report cards we've talked about in the past. These standards were selected by our teachers in both schools and then compared to ensure that the most important skills were represented. So in other words, compared because, of course, we want the standards to be the same at both elementary schools. So teachers started work separately and then came together to determine those standards. And now that that has been done, they'll go back out to teachers for a final check before being included in our newly revised report card 17-18. Unfortunately, as you know, we have had a difficult run in the last few weeks with loss of family members in Watertown Public Schools. So, fortunately, we have spent quite a bit of time out at funeral services, which would be part of my update. We've lost some individuals close to people who work here, and also our former principal, Lisa Rommel, who passed 2 weeks ago, and we now have some news on her services, which I don't have with me this evening, but for all of the details, but I know that it is on June 3rd, and there are many of us from Watertown Public Schools who will be attending there, and I will pass that along to the board. For the Hemingway Park project, we have a final questionnaire from the architects, semi-final, I suppose it probably actually is the way that we know construction projects work. And Mr. Senecola and I are working on that. It's, again, an assessment of the latest version of the plans and the space that's available. I know Mr. Lambert has attended the public building committees also, and that input that Mr. Lambert and some others gave informed the plans. They were changed a bit again, and now they are back to us to go through. That said, we are working at Munson House to ensure that all of our staff that will be moving along with us has some understanding of what the space will look like. And so Mr. Senecola is going over the plans with individuals that work in our office, our secretaries and so forth, and leading some field trips, if you will, over to Hemingway Park to try to get a visual of the space. As I mentioned to them, it's fairly difficult to imagine what our space might look like at this juncture, but doing the best we can with doing that and reconciling it with the plans. So if we have any last minute alterations that we might need to ask for, particularly some concerns related to storage. So not saying we will be recommending any changes, but our folks just want to understand what is coming with them in their areas for storage of files and so on versus what may be going up to attic storage and so forth. And as you know, we have been leading a huge charge at Munson House to go through all of the records that we have there that are primarily housed in the basement and the attic, which are far from ideal places for our records to be housed. And in order to keep them safe, we have already started going through them, shredding what we are able to by law, and moving the rest along. Right now to Swift Middle School, we have been utilizing some of the tunnels we cleared out and have been moving them into file cabinets and fire-safe file cabinets. So some of those will be temporary there until we move to Hemingway Park. Some may stay there for good depending on what the storage looks like at Hemingway. Some of the long-standing records, because as you know, some records, for example, are virtually forever and some are 50 years. So there are some things that we are in and out of all the time, and there are some that we only need when someone is looking for something. Those may be some of the things that, for now at least, we leave there. But take this opportunity to thank all of the people at Munson House, and including Mrs. Brown, who's here with us tonight, who have done a tremendous job. I mean, this is the records review and disposal that we are doing right now. It wouldn't be an underestimation to say that we probably should have begun at least 20 years ago. That's how there is so much that has to be gone through. It is a tremendous amount of work, and so I can't believe what they have gotten done already. We have floor space, we have shelf space, and you used to walk up to the basement, or down to the basement and up to the attic, and you couldn't move without stepping on file boxes. So thank you to everything that has been done there. We are working very closely with the town, Mrs. Brown and I, and other folks at Munson House, such as Joanne Zanovich, our benefits coordinator, with the town, with Mr. Scannell, Mr. Nardelli, and also the new insurance broker, Joe Rico from Rico Associates, and Cigna Associates. There's a weekly implementation call that we have been doing to make this transition a bit easier from a logistics standpoint. Again, that is a monumental amount of work, particularly at this time of year, and as we are about to go back at the budget again and have deal with that on the one hand and the switch of insurance on the other. But that said, we are working with our own employees to try to make this switch as easy as possible. As you could imagine, getting a notification that you are switching insurance carriers is daunting at minimum for folks with questions such as, are my doctors on the new plan? Is everything else going to remain the same? And we are working hard to, first of all, make sure that all of the plans are equivalent, which we are, were assured they would be before we began this process, and are continually assured that they will be. But now it is about disseminating the information to us and to our employees. And so those meetings are being scheduled for representatives to come out and speak to people. They believe they begin next week, or is it this week, the end of this week?
8th and the 9th.
Next week. So I'll keep you updated on that, but we are doing our best to move that forward with as little trouble. That's about the only word I can think of right now. Little trouble as possible, and hoping that we are able to supply all of the answers that people are looking for. You want to comment at all on that, Mrs. Brown?
I think you did a fine job.
Thank you. And that, besides mentioning that, a reminder that we have the Senior Scholarship and Awards Night at Watertown High School on Wednesday, June 7th, 6:30 in the high school auditorium, and I'm hoping that you can all make it there. And just for clarification, because I know there has been some confusion about this, there is also an awards night the next night, June 8th, and that is the Underclassmen Awards night. So they have this year broken the two awards nights because it's an easier and a better way to acknowledge our graduates and the scholarships and the awards that they are getting, the folks that come from the community to present those awards. That will still be on Wednesday night. So on Thursday night, is it also 6:30, Mr. Jones? I don't have that in front of me. So on Thursday night, June 8th, 6:30, we'll be here also for the Underclassmen Awards night. And as Mr. Jones knows, unfortunately, with some of the rescheduling that happened there, I am unable to be at the one on the 8th, but I will be there on the 7th. That's it for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Cardamola. Would you like to share the grant information, or would you like me to?
I can do that. Thank you. Each year, as you know, we attempt to make the most of all grant dollars, and in particularly our special education grant funding that is available through IDEA, which is federal grant money that then trickles down to the State Department of Ed. And we have completed and submitted our grant for next year. There are two components to that grant. One is the IDEA Special Education Assistance, which we have submitted for $671,298, and the IDEA Preschool Education Funds for $16,364. This grant was written by Mrs. Annette Misery-Dillon, our Interim Director of Student Services, and it will go from 2017 to 2019. That is normal. It is a recurring 2-year grant, and it is intended, as it says on the agenda, to support our current special education programming, our program development, professional development, and technical assistance for staff. In other words, that is what the grant is earmarked for and what it must be used for. This was already considered in the current year's budget and in the following year's budget, so this is not new to what we already had as an approved budget. Our budget was already offset, assuming the allocation of these funds, because we put in for the maximum amount of funds that we were able to get. What happens sometimes during the course of the 2 years is that we change what the funds are used on, as long as they still fit the requirements of the grant. But the dollar amount of this should not change.
Thank you, Dr. Cardamola. Are there any questions? Okay, moving on to item I, public participation. Are there any members of the public that wish to address the board this evening? Any members of the public wish to address the board this evening? Seeing none, we'll move on to committee reports. Curriculum and instruction, Ms. Rinaldi? Nothing at this time. Mr. Vicenzi, policy and labor?
No report.
Budget and finance to Mr. Lambert?
Other than what the superintendent just reported, there is no report this time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lambert. And back to you for facilities, PPC, and operations.
No report.
Mr. Murkowski, governance and community engagement?
Nothing at this time.
Thank you. Mrs. Wilk, do you have anything from communications this evening?
Nothing to report.
All right, thank you very much. Moving on to item L, report from the board chair. As I already spoke this evening, I'll just add a few notes. There is a board committee that's working currently with the custodial union, as we spoke of in the past. Negotiations are ongoing. Thank you to Mr. Lambert and Mr. Vicenzi for being on that team with us. Members of the board did enjoy themselves very much at the Makerspace grand opening open house at John Trumbull last week. It was incredible. I was unfortunately not here when they did the presentation, so to see it live and in action was really, really something else. I'm extremely proud of the work that was done there, and in particular of the students and the staff that are really working hard, both on the projects that they're allowed to do in there, that allows them to do, and also for the staff for the work that they're doing to see that happens. Once again, I want to thank the PTO at John Trumbull for their incredibly generous donation of the Makerspace, not only to John Trumbull, but also to have a Makerspace cart donated by them to both Judson and Polk, which is quite amazing. I'd also like to mention, while we're on the subject of PTOs, and a thank you. I think there are not enough formats to thank the PTOs of all of our schools for the work that they have done to help increase voter turnout in Watertown. I've said this many times since the referendum. I can't imagine what the percentage of voters that turned out would be had the PTOs not done the work that they had done, not only purchasing signs to put in neighborhoods, but standing out in costumes, making reminder phone calls, organizing businesses to provide special discounts for referendum day, and I just want to thank them and encourage them to continue doing their work. As Dr. Cardamola shared, we lost a beloved principal of Judson Elementary School, and then some. Miss Lisa Ramo passed away since our last board meeting, and we send our deepest condolences to both her friends, her family, and her school family as well. Moving on to item M, action items. Adoption of items to be approved by consent. Miss Shirley Plord of Oakville donated a check to Watertown High School football team. Do we have a motion?
Madam Chair, the board approves the donation of a check in the amount of $305.06 to the Watertown High School football team, and a letter of appreciation will be sent to the donor.
Okay, so just to reword, that's a recommendation you're making?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Moving on to item N. Do any board members have any future agenda items or comments they wish to make at this time? Seeing none, we'll move to our last round of public participation. Do any members of the public wish to address the board this evening? Okay, seeing none, I'd ask for a motion to go into executive session.
Yes, Madam Chair, I move that the board go into executive session for the purpose of interviewing 2 candidates for the Director of Student Services position, and for a discussion regarding the Superintendent of Schools evaluation. Attending the executive session will be Leslie Crotty, Dr. Carnamola, Victor Zenzi, Josephine Rosa, Jim Gambardella, Cheryl Albino, Rob Mikowski, Kathy Rinaldi, Janelle Wilk, and myself, Thomas Lambert. Attending the superintendent's evaluation discussion will be elected members of the Board of Education that are present here this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Lambert. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. We are now in executive session. We are out of executive session. We are now back in regular session. I would ask for a motion on an action regarding the appointment of a Director of Student Services.
Yes. Madam Chair, I move that the board approve of the hiring candidate B for the Director of Student Services position with Watertown Public Schools, and that Dr. Carnamola is given the authority to represent the Board of Education in the associated contract negotiations and final agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Presenzi. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. I'd ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Wilk. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. We are adjourned. The time is 10:29.
Yikes. Wow.
Thank you so much.